Our first guest is a world-renowned art historian who literally wrote the book on performance art. She also helped introduce the world to greats like Christo and Jean-Claude, Marina Abramovich, and Brian Eno.
Wow, and today she's here to discuss Performa, the world's only biennial dedicated to visual art performances across all disciplines. Please welcome the legendary RoseLee Goldberg. Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, wonderful to be here.
Oh, thank you. So for the uninitiated, please talk to us about Performa Biennale.
Wow. Okay, we take over the city for 3 weeks. We commission artists to think live. What happens? You make your work in the studio. What's going to happen? What would you do if we could actually take you live? And actually ask artists to think of a new way of working. So many of the artists have never done live before, have never gone live before. And of course, there is a wonderful history that is in my book, but I'm not going to take you through the whole history right now.
Not now, but later.
Yeah, later. I love it. Just get me started. Press a button and I'll.
All right, we like that.
Yes.
Well, this event is no small undertaking. I mean, over 3 weeks, more than 100 separate events, 40 venues around New York City, 50 curators. This is staggering. How do you go about planning something so massive?
Staying in New York for a long time. I've been here since probably the late 70s. I've met and been worked with and adored and, you know, been in close contact with so many artists, so many curators, so many museum directors. And that was really the big idea from day one. Let's bring everybody together. Let's collaborate. Let's bring all the best brains of the city together, uptown, downtown, east, west, you know, across the river. And really just, it's a way to put a spotlight on this town, or many, many, many spotlights on this town, which is really the cultural capital of the world, and now the performance capital of the world as well.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
surrealism is one of the themes this
Yes.
year. So are we going to see work inspired by Duchamp?
Absolutely. That's
Dali.
a good name right there. Dali.
Yeah,
Somebody
the
actually,
Dada movement.
Yes. In
Okay.
fact, somebody wanted to do a Dali, which was take a live lobster walking down the street, but we didn't have time to get that one figured out.
Okay. What
you
about
know.
melting clocks, possibly?
Melting clocks.
Okay.
And we've got some terrific pieces that really talk about what surrealism said about liberating the mind. And what we do with Performa, because as you heard, I like to teach, I like to explain, we take everybody through this story. So actually in January, we began with an amazing evening, 2 days actually, on Black surrealism, surrealism from all over the world that went around the world like a virus after 1920s in Paris. Too much history, I know, but
No,
we're getting there.
Don't stop. Don't hold back. Give it to us. We want it all.
Okay.
Okay.
And we even had Melvin Van Peebles come in,
really?
because he was living in Paris in the 60s. He was so funny and beautiful, amazing man. He had everybody sort of rolling and laughing, and it was really great. And so I also really try to get through to everyone, to get through to kids, to show them that history is so radical, you know, and let's look back on this amazing history and take it as an example. So I've got many agendas here, you know, really trying to think about the new, think of the 21st century, think about the old, but how do we make it look new? How do we make it feel new? And then create an enormous amount of conversation about it. So here we are talking about this history, you know?
To that point, you know, this is the 5th installment of Performa. How has it evolved over the years?
Well, I don't want to say we get bigger, because I think we were big from day one. We went out
Like
the
that.
gate. We went out the gate. I was determined. I wrote the book you mentioned in 1979, so it's been in print for a long time. It's coming out in Chinese and Russian next month. So
7 different languages.
Yes, I think we might even be a few more by now, but it's up there. And I just felt we need to tell this story. It's such a great story. It's, as I say, and it makes art very accessible to people, actually, because we're all human beings. We look at each other. There's always a story to tell.
It's true.
So it's actually, I think it surprises people that they come and they think, what is this? And then they go, you know, that was really interesting. And even if they don't 100% get it or even 100% like it, they say, I learned something, or I thought about something, or why do you call this art? These are all good questions. It's a great way to bring, you know, people from all parts of the city, all parts of the world, to talk about what does art do.
How will it differ from, say, the Whitney Biennale, the Venice Biennale, or even Art Basel, for example?
Absolutely. These are the big moments in the art world calendar internationally. The Whitney has been a long-standing, extraordinary biennial for all of us. It started out, I think they've changed the rules a little bit, but the early way that the biennial was only American artists. So that was already one way to think that it's different. We've been international from day one.
Okay.
We also, the Whitney's Biennial is about one organization's view, which is always a fantastic view of the world. They have great curators. They bring in curators from out of town. But it is still that it's within one institution. We again we work with the Bronx Museum, Student Museum in Harlem, the Kitchen, MoMA, the Guggenheim, PS1. Again, I said right at the start, we work with everybody. And so that's another huge difference. What else? We work across disciplines, which is also very interesting. I think the starting point is always art history, if you want, or the art world. But then we also show new work in film and new work in dance. And so I secretly mix up the disciplines so that, you think you're going to an art project, but you suddenly discover there's a new architect you want to learn about, or maybe it's somebody from the dance world, or somebody in music that you had no idea with. So I try not to give away that we do actually cover these, to separate the disciplines, but in fact we do. We really, so that makes us also very different. We bring people from all different disciplines. And then the fact is, too, it's really the only international biennial of its kind in New York, amazingly. So as I said, we do have these other biennials in New York, but with a much different, different mission is the way they work.
Well, why do you think these biennials have become so popular? Because it seems like they're being almost oversaturated in some other fields with these shows, these super shows. Why have they become so popular?
Well, I think the art world has grown hugely in the last 10, 15 years. And so there's an enormous interest. I think actually a lot of people, find it a really interesting way to enter the world of ideas, or, it's a way to, it's always puzzling, so you always learn something. It's not obvious. It's not like sitting through, it's not like sitting through a straight theater piece where the story is told. You're always left a lot of room to bring your own ideas. So I think there's a lot of attraction for that. Of course, the finances in the art world somehow have managed to kind of keep rising and rising.
It's big business.
There's big business.
What do you think about the explosion of just price tags that these works are going for these days?
Well, I think
astronomical.
It's astronomical, and I want to get back to that point. That's why I started Performa. I really, in fact, the first event I did which I did when I teach at NYU, so I really brought it back to school, and I called it Not for Sale. Not for sale. This is about the world of ideas. I wanted to get back to a notion that we're making art, that the new young artists emerging, how do you step into that world if you're stepping into this very, very strong business?
Has it become too commercial, do you think?
There's always a balance. The artists balance the way the way art is seen and the way art approaches them, because artists take huge risks. There's nothing safe in becoming an artist. You don't suddenly wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to get my degree here, and then I'm going to immediately start selling. It's a huge risk. So the very nature of being an artist means that kind of being too commercial will be balanced out, because the good artists are going to come up with something so original and so much about themselves and their own view of the world that it's going to counter it on its own. So, it's a phenomenon that, again, we could talk a lot about, but not today.
Well, speak to us about some of the performers and artists you'll be having at your event this year.
Well, you have this fabulous backdrop.
I like that.
That's really thrilling. And indeed, there's you mentioned the number, 100 artists, so it's very difficult to stay with one or two.
But I'll give you some standouts.
Some standouts. Well, of course, they're all standouts.
They're all standouts.
Of course.
But okay,
very good answer.
Let's start with Rashid Johnson. I'm sure you know his work. If he hasn't been on the show, I'm sure you'll have him on the show.
Hopefully. Can you hook it up for us?
Tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yes.
He's a really terrific, very strong artist. That's him in the
corner right there.
Yeah. Rashid's work is he really comes out of a very, very interesting place with his art, looking at a history of African American artists that he's had a lot of conversations with, and found mentors that he was working with. He grew up in Chicago, and he told me he grew up going to the baths. I think you say baths. Sorry, I still have a bit of an English accent.
You're from South Africa, right?
All right. Durban. We still say baths.
Baths.
Okay. So the Russian baths on East 10th Street, he decided that he wanted to do his event there. And no less, he is doing, I'm sure you know Leroy Jones, Amira Baraka's play, Dutchman, which is devastating, absolutely shocking, is going to take place, I kid you not, in the steam room, in the bars on East 10th Street.
Wow.
You were kidding.
And I went to
day?
rehearsal, and I was very, very hot.
Wow.
We've
So
got
that-
to see that.
So not only is it an extraordinary play to bring back to life, it was a play from 1963, the height of the civil rights movement, bringing this powerful, very disturbing, distressing play right back and putting you right close up with the two actors, a couple, and she's white and he's black, and it all explodes all over the place, how the story unfolds, in a bathhouse.
In a bathhouse.
So that's unusual. Who else? We're looking at wonderful, the colorful pieces at the back there, Ryan McNamara. It's an artist who works with dancers as his material. So that's very interesting. And he's taking over a theater. And what he's playing with is the internet, the way we all look up information on the internet. So say you want to look up dances on the internet. So you look up the word dance, but you're going to find Spanish dances and ballet dances and belly dances and all kinds of dances. So he's doing a live cut and paste of dances. So you're going to have a ballet dancer and I don't want to give away the rest of it, but there are going to be all these different moments. So again, this imagination of the artist to come up with something so splendid and also very serious in his way of understanding how do we see the world through the internet? How do we learn about culture?
Oh, before you go, I have to ask you about the kitchen.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that era in New York, 70s and early 80s. My goodness, take us back to that time. What was it like? What was the art world like? What was New York like? Just tell me everything.
Well, number one.
In less than a minute.
Fast. We own downtown. Nobody, the art world, below 14th Street, whoa, you didn't go downtown. There were very few light bulbs on the street. You couldn't get a New York Times. You couldn't get anything. So that was it. We owned it. We didn't go above 14th Street except if you were going to the doctor or to the Guggenheim, the MoMA, something like that. So that was our territory. My loft, $200 a month
for your loft?
2,000 square feet. On Mercer Street.
Unheard of.
Unheard of. You can't, I don't know.
2,000 square feet on Mercer for $200 a month. My goodness.
And what that says is that cheap rent allowed artists to make work in the space. So again, this huge community of dancers. Again, back to what I love, why we do Performa this way. Dancers, filmmakers, theater people, all the different disciplines, living on these lofts, meeting each other in the morning, meeting each other late at night, chat, conversation about what is it we're doing, what is art about, how does money affect this whole story, and on and on. And it was a time, too, I think, when having no money was a badge of honor. That everybody walked around and, Canal Street, pick up clothes, and there was very much a sense of this community being against, actually,
commercialism,
commodity.
Capitalism.
So
Robert Mapplethorpe, Cindy Sherman, even the Beastie Boys.
Even the Beastie Boys
got their start at the kitchen. My goodness.
The kitchen was the heart and soul for me, obviously. I came there in '78, and we gave Cindy Sherman her first one-person exhibition, Robert Longo, David Sally, Vito Acconci, and indeed I knew Robert, who was absolutely marvelous.
Amazing.
So, and again, it was very much a community. We all hung out there all day. Nobody woke up before noon. So, come there, people would just really spend a lot of time. The kitchen was a place to be together. And in the back room, guess what we were talking about? We were talking about, I remember, the Gong Show. We were talking about the early dating game. We were saying, what is the difference between this world and the art world? So this was the conversation, and you want the whole story in the 70s about the high and low. What is high art and what is popular culture?
And what are the parallels?
Well, now
the
there is no difference. I think the back and forth, it's all wiped clean. There's really, downtown, uptown, that distinction is also leaving. Again, back to that was a reason to start Performa. Let's look at this. How do we keep that really adventurous spirit moving along? How do we keep that really right in the front of what we do.
Well, I'm glad it's still moving. And how can we attend it? Give us the details. Where can we go to get more information?
Go to our website, Performa. It's a little complicated. Performa, I hope you'll put it on the line somewhere. Performa-arts.org.
Okay.
The program
That's not
is
hard.
there. Well, you just got to remember the dash and the S at the end of art.
Okay.
Okay.
And the calendar is rich as can be. My only advice is don't try to see everything. It's okay if you select.
Okay.
I'll see everything, but and if you'd like to come with me, I have.
Is that an invitation?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you do
Well,
that?
there, just let us
Absolutely.
know.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
I will.
You're
do
not
have
going to be able to get rid of us, you know.
My sister and I, we actually rent a car. He's the designated driver. I'm chatting in the back or on the side, and we do invite you both to come with us.
Okay, so we have to end this segment so we can work out our schedules then, because we are definitely coming with you.
Best news all day.
Thank you so much for
I'll
being
send you
here.
our itinerary.
So much.
And good luck with everything in the
Thank
project.
you.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
Great to be
right.
here.
And you're watching Arise Entertainment 360.